If you've ever dug into the world of velocity banking on YouTube, you've likely come across an intriguing strategy of being able to pay off maxed out credit cards while having zero cash flow. The strategy has become very popular and has been discussed on many YouTube channels such as Vanntastic Finance and Woodfin. And although this video is not going to be about saying these videos are completely false, it will look closely into elements within the strategy that tend to be overlooked. And if you've seen these videos about paying off maxed out credit cards while having zero cash flow, it's extremely important to get an alternative perspective. So in today's video, we're going to go into how the strategy supposedly works, but we will really focus our time on going into the elements that are often brushed over within these videos, but are extremely important to understand to create a true picture of the risk related to the strategy of paying off a credit card while having zero cash flow. We will also look at research and findings that relate directly back to some of these core risks. So how does the strategy of paying off a maxed out credit card with zero cash flow really work? Well, let's take a look at an example. Let's imagine Sally currently has a credit card that is maxed out with a balance of $12,000 that carries an interest rate of 22% and a monthly minimum payment of $360. She also has a monthly income of $3,500, but also has $3,500 in monthly expenses, which of course will leave her monthly cash flow at $0. Sally will then take her monthly expenses that are eligible to be paid onto her credit card, which in her case is $2,500, and make a lump sum payment onto her credit card, which in turn will bring her balance down to $9,500. And this is really where the first major risk arises. And although people go into debt for various reasons, research has shown that people who have gone into debt in the past are more likely to go back into debt due to the fact that they tend to have less resistant attitudes towards debt. And this factor can really serve as a major risk when it comes to this strategy. As well, being in debt, especially if it's substantial debt, can lead to what is known as debt stress syndrome, which in turn can lead to additional mental health problems such as depression, denial, and anger. These problems can have a profound impact on our thinking, which can directly impact things such as our spending. So with understanding these risks, if we take a look back at Sally's situation, what she has done is taken the majority of her monthly income and made a lump sum payment onto her credit card, which again will immediately lower her balance from $12,000 to $9,500. But of course, Sally will still have $2,140 in monthly expenses that she needs to pay onto her credit card throughout the month. This number has dropped from the initial $2,500 in expenses by $360, as it also accounts for Sally's minimum credit card payment of $360, which of course has been covered due to the fact of making a larger lump sum payment. This scenario can seem fantastic, but if Sally's debt has had a negative impact on her thinking, which as previously mentioned is very common, this scenario can pose as a major risk. She now has a substantial amount of additional room on her credit card, which one, may make her feel more comfortable in taking on additional debt, or two, if she's facing emotions such as anxiety or depression, may lead her to making purchases that she otherwise would not have made. Of course, we understand that everyone's situation with debt is different, but these are real factors that need to be carefully evaluated and weighed against the benefits of the strategy. And this is another area with these popular videos that tends to be brushed over, and that is communicating the true values that these strategies actually bring. To better understand this, let's continue on looking at our example with Sally. So Sally has made her monthly lump sum payment onto her card and will now pay all of her monthly expenses throughout the month onto the same credit card. After paying all these expenses, Sally's balance will be brought back up to $11,640. But let's say Sally didn't implement this strategy and just made her minimum monthly payment of $360. In this scenario, at the end of the month, her balance would also be $11,640. So if Sally ends up in the same spot, where is the value within the strategy of using velocity banking while having zero cash flow? Well, that lies within the monthly interest charge, which will be different for these two scenarios. See, in the first example, where Sally is paying all of her monthly expenses onto her credit card, she's going to be able to achieve a lower average daily balance since she is first making a lump sum payment onto the card and then paying all of her monthly expenses back onto the same card. So then let's say with velocity banking, Sally is able to achieve an average daily balance of $10,500. The bank will then use this number along with her 22% APR to calculate her monthly interest owed, which in this case will equate to $192.50. In our second example, where Sally just makes her minimum payment, her average daily balance will be $11,650, which will result in a monthly interest charge of $213. This then means the interest savings in this example for month 1 is just over $20. If we then factor in a 1% cash back on all credit card purchases that Sally will make, with her $2,150 in monthly purchases, this will result in another $21.50 in monthly savings. This will then leave Sally's total month 1 savings at $41.50. Although this amount is not insignificant, it's very difficult to see how this is really going to impactfully move the needle, especially if you're someone who has multiple maxed out credit cards. In many of the examples shown in other videos, it is really the monthly minimum payment that is leaving the biggest dent in the credit card balance, rather than the value being provided through interest and cashback savings with the velocity banking strategy while having zero cash flow. That's why it's extremely important to level set expectations that some of these videos give off and carefully weigh them against many of the key risks, such as the ones we've discussed here in this video today. If you did get some value out of this video or it opened your mind to an alternative perspective, I would recommend subscribing to the channel for more content related to velocity banking and everyday finance.